Good morning, family. Happy Saturday. It's another day of virtual cup of coffee. I'm your girl, Melissa D, host, MC, activation coach, and minister. And this is my place where I meet my friends for an amazing time with conversation, connection, and we invite you in to have a virtual cup of coffee. Today's special guests are financial coaches, Latisha Stevens and Omega Melton. These two women are not only phenomenal in finance, but there's a sisterhood that they share in a mission in seeing us grow better, healthier, wiser in our wealth, in our finances, and in the area where God really wants to bless us. In this pandemic season, there's so much uncertainty, and there are tools that these two women have to ensure that we can manage our money in uncertain times. Let's bring them into the show. Good morning, ladies.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Oh, I'm so excited about this broadcast. First of all, this is my first go at bringing on multiple guests in this new platform. And can I just say, y'all look amazing. Y'all make this show look good. Thank you for joining
Thank
Thank
me.
you.
you.
Oh man, Latisha Stevens here in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have Omega joining us from Florida. And when I tell you, this is just the beauty of virtual coffee. I call it virtual coffee for a reason. I'm a coffee junkie. Like whenever I want to meet my friends, like a cup of coffee is sacred to me. If I want to sit at I love little coffee houses and hidden cute places where we could just sit and chat for hours. And so this is my way of staying connected to community, but also helping to inspire and motivate others during this time. And so this is very real. Well, I would absolutely sit down with you all over an amazing cup of coffee or tea. But in the pre-show, you guys bonded like y'all have known each other for years. And I love it. I love
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for joining me. Omega and Latisha are actually members of our Activation Nation coaching community. And when I tell you, they bless me tremendously. Like I knew when we had the vision for Activation Nation, it was to bring a collective group of coaches, speakers, motivators together. And the goal is Activate 1000. And through this platform, I'm just amazed at the feedback. But these two women in particular, when I tell you, like they totally understand community. It when I see you both go live and you share your tips and the questions, like y'all bring an energy that I just love. And I said, you know what? I got to get them both together and we're going to do it over virtual cup of coffee.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us more, Letitia. I'm gonna start with Letitia. Tell us more about who you are. Tell us about your business and what inspired you to coach people in the area of budget and finance.
So about 5 years ago, I started off as a life coach because I experienced a divorce and found myself in a financial pit to where, I didn't have money, I didn't have savings, and I had two small children. And so I knew that I had to do something. I knew that I had to change my life because it was just me and my children. And so I started learning about finances. I started reading about budgeting. I started taking financial courses. I did everything that I could to get myself out of that situation and was successful at it. And I found myself coaching women, not even knowing I was doing it. And something that I realized um, is that most of the women that I've coached had some type of financial issue. They would have anxiety about money and things like that. And so I truly believe that if your money, your finances are in order, everything else kind of aligns and falls into place. And so I found myself as now a financial coach, helping women live the life they desire to fulfill the financial goals that they have. And I love everything about it because I've been there, I've walked the walk, I've, used the tools and used the different strategies and things like that. So God has just placed me in this position to bless others and to teach others. And that's what I do. And I love it.
Amazing. Well, it's come through your place of pain that you found your purpose, and not
Yes.
only getting your financial affairs together and that season for your family, but look at how he's now using you to teach this skill to other women. And that's what the activation hour is all about. That was your hour, that was your moment to shift and now serve others through your purpose. So, Omega, tell us your story on what activated you to be a financial coach through Scripted Sense.
Whew, okay, y'all. So my story so long, but I'm going to make it as brief as I can. But I've been in finance for about 20 years, and the biggest part was me sitting across the desk from families and women and men and children because they're affected by the financial situation in the household as well. And just having those conversations with people, seeing them in despair. So we had all kinds of moments. We had the happy moments. We had the sad moments. We had the frustration that came from families that had taken a loss of some type or some sort. So it was just sitting across the table from those families, realizing the pain that they were in, so emotionally connected to finance. Everything about finance is emotional, whether you have money or whether you don't, it's all emotional. And again, same thing with my story. We had to get to a place where we were just sick and tired of being in the place where we were. I tell everybody, I was, again, 20 years in finance. I probably the last 10 years have done our best with managing my own finances. So I sat across the table talking to families and not doing it on my own. So until I took the initiative to apply what I knew and what I had learned myself, there was no change. So again, we got to that point. We had to make a change. We had a family to raise three beautiful teenagers at this point. And just being in the community, talking to people begin to gravitate toward me and say, Miss Omega, I want to get a house. I want to find a car. Hey, my credit's not good. And I'm again giving advice, talking to them, talking them through it, and changing lives. When they come back and they give their story, it's all rewarding for me. And that's the true reward. It's just making a difference in someone's life, day to day, month to month, week to week, and letting them know budgeting is not as hard as we think it is. It takes a lot of discipline. The scripture of the day this morning talked about discipline. No discipline feels good at first, but you reap the reward in the end. So that's my story, and that's why I began doing what I'm doing. And I just pray that it blesses more than just this community. I pray that it's widespread, international, all over the world, just making a difference in communities that we serve.
Omega, you said something that really just made me sit up straight when you said, people are emotional about their money. Money and finance is very personal and emotional for families, for anybody, men and women, whether they admit it or not.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to come out of the gate and ask straight out, and I'll pitch it to you, Omega, and definitely Latisha chime in. How do we shift from being emotional to practical about money, especially in this season, because emotions are high. People are afraid, they are stressed, they're scared. There are people who are furloughed and they may not have other resources to fall back on. And so sometimes what happens out of emotion is that we move in fear and make mistakes and bad decisions. So how do we override that emotional piece to be practical about our money?
I will first say the foundation for me and for Scripted Sense, the goal is that the foundation is Christ. It's the Word of God. So I would say go there, because that's going to combat your fear. Find those scriptures, look through some motivational things, go into the source, because he is the source. It all belongs to him, and we're just literally using it. We're able to have that resource, but God is our source. So going to him, praying about it, allowing God to do a work in you, exercising your faith. Faith is going to be a big part of your journey when it comes to your finances, because it's not going to change overnight. So just sitting down, getting in with God, taking that time. I was in my prayer closet this morning, preparing for today. So, getting in and that time to talk to God about it. So that would be my first thing foundationally. And then just putting pen to paper. Again, it's not very hard to do. But again, it just takes you being willing to do it. Again, the first 10 years, I wasn't willing to do it. I thought I was, but I wasn't. So once I made up my mind, I was able to sit down. So just doing those things, learning what you can learn and applying it. Because again, information is just information if you don't apply it. It's knowledge and it's wisdom once you apply it to your life. So that's, I guess, the biggest thing that I would say for that.
And for me,
you want to chime in on that one as well?
Absolutely. I'll just pick up where she left off as far as pen to paper. That is so important to figure out where you are. What is your current situation? If you have lost your job, what are your expenses? What type of income do you have coming in? You don't have to have this fancy app or anything like that. Old school pen and paper. Write down your expenses. Write down your income. Look at those things and see what can I eliminate right now, being that my income has been lowered, or what can I suspend? What can I eliminate? What can I reduce in my expenses right now? Just knowing where you are is going to help you. It's going to help you see where you need to go in this, and with what's going on right now. So again, just writing down your expenses. I mean, it doesn't have to be a fancy budget or anything like that, especially with what we're going through right now. But we do need to know where we are and where we're going.
Agreed.
That's good. You said knowing where you are will help you see where you need to go. I just wanted to make sure y'all caught that. I'm adding tips here to the group. Guys, I just love the energy in our comments and our chat. I mean, you really brought your audience out tonight. This morning. So Terry says, y'all look beautiful. Thank you, Terry. You're amazing. Thank you for joining us for virtual coffee. Hope you have your coffee or tea in hand this morning. Avis, a friend of Activation Nation and a supporter of the community. Please put your questions here in the chat for us, because I want these ladies to really answer your questions. Remember, this is for you. This isn't for us. We're here for you all this morning. And then also, Latisha, you said budget tip, write it out. One of the things we talk about in Activation Nation is our money map, right? And it's a lot of times there's all these hidden potentials and opportunities, and electronic statements and apps are good, but that's not in our faces. I believe that there's a cognitive connection between your brain and the pen or pencil and that paper. Like when you write it, I think it really gets down in you. So it's really important to write it out. So here's the thing. We're in very uncertain times with the COVID pandemic. And what I'm learning, I'm just going to be candid and put it out there. And audience, please chime in if you feel comfortable enough to share. There's two types of people I've seen in this season, okay? I've seen those who have become kind of tighter with their purse strings. They weren't struggling, but they were in a comfortable place and they have a little cushion under them. And then we see those who totally were not ready, like whether it was socioeconomic circumstances where they didn't have access to resources, or whether they had access to resources and just did not plan or expect this to happen. Can you ladies talk about some things you've seen out there to help people now in uncertain times? Because the things y'all were talking about are practical things we should have been doing anyway, but now folks are scrambling. What are some resources, quick tips you have for particularly right now?
Tish, you want to go first? Or are you good?
Go ahead, Omega.
I want to make sure. So I would just say I love Tisha's story. And we've had so much time on our hands when the pandemic came. We've had so much time on our hands to learn, And it was a discipline thing. So I just say, go out there, get the knowledge. You can Google budgeting, you can Google saving, you can Google investments, you can Google all of these things. Now, money coaches come into play because we can be, the source for you. We can have all that readily available to talk to you about it and walk you through your journey. But again, you still have a responsibility in holding yourself accountable, going out there and getting the knowledge and applying it to your life. So that's the biggest thing. Google is huge. There's a couple of websites I wrote down. So United Way in all of your communities, a lot of times they're going to assist you. So 211.org, that's one that's going to be really beneficial. I know here locally, like our Chamber of Commerce has had a lot of different information, the PPP loans, the reliefs and things of that sort. All of that stuff came through the Chamber of Commerce here locally. So all of the states in the United States of America, the counties, every last one of them, majority of them at least, has a resource that you can go on their website. You can look it up and it gives you every category. There's a website that's called grantspace.org. GrantSpace literally has all types of information. It goes literally and breaks it down by state, where you can go on and you can see what's going on in your state. What relief do they have? Financial relief. And it breaks it down even into the business that you're in. If you're in finance, or if you're in business, if you're in music, anything like that. So just begin to find your resources. Simply go to Google and type in financial assistance through COVID-19, and it's going to give you a lot of information. So those are some of the resources that I've kind of grabbed up and looked through.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Yeah, what do you have, Latisha?
Yes, and I just wanted to say now is the best time to educate yourself, to start reading.
Yes.
DaveRamsey.com, his bookstore has all of his books in there for $10 right now. Like, this is the best time. Yes, this is the best time to educate yourself on, budgeting, finances, things that you don't understand. Because once you understand those things, you're going to thrive in them. Also, too, there are several different colleges who are offering free continued education classes. And one that I know off the top of my head is the University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia. They are offering free continuing education classes. There's a class in there on personal finance. There's a class in there on marketing your business. Just, Google it. Like Omega was saying, Google it, because the information is there, is present. And then too, we are financial coaches as well, and we hold our clients accountable. So if you feel that you're not disciplined enough to go out and find these resources, contact us, because we're here and that's what we do and that's what we love.
We have a question here from our audience. Avis asks, is denial a huge factor as to the reason why people are not saving money? Are people thinking they cannot fall victim? Ooh, denial, thinking, oh, I'm fine, it's not going to happen to me. Anybody want to address that?
I think people they're just not intentional about their finances most times. And it's something that you have to steadily look at. It's not something that you do one time and it continues to work for you. And yes, denial is a big thing. And a lot of people are in denial and don't want to face their situation. But once you face it head on and you see what your situation is, you look at your budget, you look at your expenses, you look at your income, and you face it, it becomes easier as time goes on. But again, it's not just a one and all and one and go. You have to do the work and you have to start saving. A lot of people spend money, unnecessary money, on wants. And it feels good to go out and shop and, have Amazon coming to the door every day. The feeling is so much greater.
The Amazon Prime.
Later when you see your savings account increasing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you, like, when I first started saving and I was at 1,000 and then I was at 2,000 and then I was at 5,000 and I looked around, I was at 10,000. It motivated me to say, okay, what else can I do to increase my savings? It was exciting. And it's so much greater than the temporary fix of shopping and spending money that you can return it, but it's only temporary. But to see your savings increase, it motivates you to figure out other ways you can make money. And I like that feeling better than, a temporary Amazon package coming to my door.
Right.
Yeah, if I can chime in on that, I'm gonna be totally transparent. Yeah, if you all have been watching me long enough, you know for me this is the season of radical transparency. It hasn't felt good, but it totally has released me and a lot of people. So I'm gonna just call it out. And some of y'all, you don't have to say your name, but you can give me some hearts if this is you too. So what's crazy, like I've shared with you all because you're in the Activation Nation community, I've made more money in my business during the pandemic. However, I had to catch myself because when I pulled my statements, I said, yeah, I made more, but boy, that Amazon truck keeps coming. And I justified it to say, oh, these are purchases for my business. Yeah, I'm a tech nerd. Like I got the studio here. Like if there's a gadget, you want to get my attention, wave a gadget in my face, okay? Or some fun. I'm one of those people like I love it because I can't really, I like to actually go try on shoes and clothes. So y'all got me. The shoes and clothes I hadn't been buying. But you have to also look at, like you said, the spending habit. And so I had to shift from, it's like an adrenaline rush when people shop. And then also looking at your motivators. Like I grew up in the kind of household and family where if I did something good, my mom rewarded me by saying we're going shopping. If we were stressed, we went shopping. If we were bored, we went shopping. And so now I had to look at the pathology of my money habits and say, wait a minute, where did I learn this behavior? So, like right now, I mean, not bored necessarily, but I'm in here. I got time, the stuff I've always wanted. I got time now to look for it. It's like, no, how about shifting and calling it out? I had to call myself out. I printed my statement from my business and from my personal account and was like, okay, Amazon is getting too much of my money. Like, cut it off. Like, literally, I canceled my personal account because I was like, it's too easy. They make it too easy for you to spend. So, what are some things? And again, it takes a lot of vulnerability with yourself to look at it. Like, I literally highlighted every purchase. I printed, like I said, on paper. I can't just look at that app. I had to look at it and feel the hurt. And I went to the whiteboard and I was like, oh my gosh. I looked at that money. And then what made me feel worse and like sick almost was like I thought of 3 other things that I needed to do with the money instead of what I wanted. So what are some ways we can help people be honest? Because I've seen a lot of people point out slow leaks in their money, like buying coffee every day, eating out every day. We haven't been able to do that. So where's the money going? Let's talk about that.
Okay, so I'll just say a few things on that. So a lot of my clients that I've worked with, I find that they start off by saying, and I'll say the same thing in my journey, my parents never sat down with me and talked about money. They never had the conversation at home. So I have a lot of my clients that say, well, we didn't talk about money in my household. My mama never said it. My daddy never said it. But when it comes down to it, what I tell my clients, you learned it. You heard it. You saw it. You saw mom in despair. You heard the phone calls. You heard the conversations. You may have saw them sitting at the table and thinking, or maybe even praying, and they're praying, God, where's the next, bill going to come from? Where's the next dollar going to come from? God, I need you. Like you might have heard them crying out to God, but you knew, or you heard, or you learned through what you saw and what maybe you heard from your parents. So that's the first thing I'll say. We actually did learn, but it may not have been vocal. It may not have been something they sat down, but you learned those things. And another thing I'll go to is tracking your spending is so important. And Mel, that's pretty much what you did in essence. You tracked your spending. And I say do that for a couple of months, 2 to 3 months. Do that religiously, consistently. Don't break that cycle, because you will begin to open your eyes. It will open your eyes so wide to say, God, I spent this much money. I had a friend that talked about it in one of my financial classes. They had a month where they looked at their finances and they had spent literally $1,200 in a month on fast food. Wow. And she said, she told her husband, like, honey, do we even have that kind of money? No, you have a lot more money than you believe. You have a lot more money than you've accounted for, because we have gotten so used to just spending our money the way we want to spend it. As Tisha said, it's wants, it's not needs. Prioritize your life, prioritize, and set it towards your goals. Put that vision in place and say, you know what, for me to reach this goal and this vision, for it to come to fruition, I have to do some things with my life. I have to focus on some things. And that's literally what we have to do to push forward. My last thing is what you focus on grows. And that goes for the good and it goes for the bad. So if you're focusing on the good, you're focusing on your budget, you're focusing on your, tracking your spending, you're focusing on your savings. And even if it's $10, it doesn't matter. Where you start does not matter. I tell people the process and the progress, it will equal your success in finance. Now, in any other field, it may be different, but if you come with that process, you begin to progress. I don't care if it's baby steps, but that success is going to come. So what you focus on grows. So it's going to be the adverse. If you're doing some of the bad things, spending your money unwisely, you just go out and drop $100 on anything you feel like, that also going to grow. Those bad habits will grow as well. So let's focus on the good habits, the wise spending, because the word of God actually talks about it through and through. Let's do that. And then I think I know, because I lived it, life will begin to change for you and you'll see the difference. And it does make a difference from 100 to 1,000 to 2,000, as Tisha said as well. It gives you so much joy in your heart. So that's all I have on that. And Tisha, if you want to chime in.
I just wanted to say, like we focus on our physical health, we have to focus on our financial health as well. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, where do I want to be? How much money do I want to have saved? What type of investments do I want to have? What type of legacy do I want to leave for my children, for my grandchildren? It starts now and it's never too late. So put the pen to the paper and do the work. Do the work.
That's it.
We have a saying in Activation Nation, and you ladies have seen me talk about this within our coaching group. Only purchase where you can produce. Only purchase where you can produce. After I had that excruciating moment of looking at my statements, and I started to think about, and again, being transparent, like this season of slowing down has allowed me to do the things that I said someday I would do in my business, and not just for my business, but what I call my legacy building. I'm building an empire here, like with multiple businesses. And so, it was someday I'm going to really sit down with my business accountant and go through the books and put those and reconcile and get some things in order. Someday I'm going to really separate. That's the thing too. If you are, I want to talk to business owners. We're going to shift and take a break and go to those who may own businesses, whether it's your side hustle, whether it is your full-time business you're building, or even if it's just legacy building and protecting assets. I want to talk about money on a higher level, but one of the things that I will say has been powerful, it is the highest sense of ownership, and that is using your money. A lot of times people say, well, I don't have time, or I don't have the money to hire a lawyer. I don't have the money to hire a coach. I don't have the money to hire an accountant. Here's the thing. If you shift your, like you said, Omega, like what you're focusing on, what you focus on grows. When you start to look at that as an asset, me hiring a lawyer is an asset. Why? Because it saved me time and it made me money because I put the legal structures in place. I got the trademarks and the copyrights and those things. So now that's ownership that I'm passing down. That's real business ownership. Okay. Even with investing in, because you're not spending, you're investing. So your mindset, I tell people all the time, and if you've ever sat with me on a discovery call or coaching call, I ask yourself, are you willing to invest in this? You're not spending on me because there's going to be a return. If you're spending, you're losing. If you're investing, you're gaining and getting it back. So we have to be careful about our money language. And if we have now shifted our mindset and said, wait, is this a purchase that's going to produce? Do I know that me spending this is going to duplicate or multiply my money?
Absolutely.
So it's a mindset. It's definitely a mindset. So listen, I want to come back. We're going to take a very quick break. I want to come back and then talk about more of those business resources. You ladies shared some amazing things about like the PPP loan, understanding what those guidelines are, y'all. I mean, you can't just be out here making up some pay stubs on your computer talking about, look, I'm paying myself. Like, really, this is the time, especially in our community, particularly in our communities, and Black and brown communities. Let's get our house in order and get our affairs in order. Yeah, we're going to I'm going to come back and talk, because that is a part of financial wealth. This is bigger than filling your savings account, but legacy. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
right, family, you're tuned into Virtual Cup of Coffee. I am enjoying my favorite cup of actually tea this morning. I'm cooling it on the coffee because I'm naturally hyper already. I mean, so, but literally, this is my favorite time is to just have coffee and just good conversation about empowering things, conversation that fills us and it really motivates us during this season. And so I'm joined by these beautiful coaches, my sister coaches, Coach
Absolutely.
Stevens and Coach Omega Melton. These women are financial coaches and money experts. And if you tuned into the first half, we talked about personal finance. They shared their stories of just money lessons. Omega shared something so powerful. She said, you learn something, whether your family taught it to you or not, inadvertently through what you observed in your household, and those things can show up in your own money habits. And Latisha even shared with us her story of in that transition season of her life. And some of you are in a real transition here and hit hard, not only by the pandemic, but just by life. And so, how do you recover and rebuild things? And so, right before the break, I said I want to shift gears and talk about businesses and just asset protection, legacy building. What does that mean when I say that? Legacy building when it comes to finances and money. Talk about that.
Go ahead, Omega.
Okay. I always got to give you the floor first.
Oh, you go first. You go first.
Building a legacy, to me, starting with scripted sense, starting with that business, because the Bible again speaks about building wealth for your children's children. So it's not just in today that we need to focus on building wealth, but we need to think about not just today and the money that we're spending, but my children will be able to spend, my grandchildren will be able to spend, and to reap the harvest of the seeds that have been planted and cultivated in this season. So that's what it means. You're going to build a legacy. You're going to give your children something to look forward to. You're going to give them something to walk in if they so choose to do so. So building a business and a legacy, it's just all about, what you feel your purpose is. And then you begin to sow that seed and sow that into your children day to day, week to week, month to month. And again, you just focus, a clear focus on God, clear focus on what he wants you to do, clear focus on where he wants you to be and where he wants you to go. And you just begin to build, do everything that you can to find out about that business. And I'm still in the season of learning because I'm still in baby steps of my business. So, but I'm finding every resource that I can find because I want it to be quality and I want to move in excellence because I am a child of God and I do want that to be the focus as well.
That's good. Latisha, what's legacy to you when I say legacy with finance?
It's not just leaving money for our children's children, but it's actually taking the steps and running the business and actually allowing our children to see what we are doing. Because like Omega said before, we learned something from our parents, whether we thought we did or not. And so my children seeing me helping other women about finances, teaching them about finances is so important. And it's something that they can take with them and teach their children as well. So it's not just about, leaving a legacy as far as a business goes, because my children may decide to take another journey. But for me to be in a position to create passive income for them to go into their savings account or to have something, to leave something for my grandchildren, it's something that we have to think about now. We have to start taking action now and not only think about today, but think about our future and say, okay, by me taking this action today, it's going to produce these results in the future.
That's good. By me taking this action today, it produces results in the future. Just to share a personal family story, one of the most powerful things I've seen, and I've heard of other families doing this, like I've never seen this in my community, let alone in my family, until recent years. I have a great uncle who my grandmother's brother, and he was more like a grandfather figure to me, and very humble man. He lived a modest life. He was a truck driver for years. I mean, he wasn't, he didn't have some notable famous job that paid him incredible money. And I always heard he was good with money, but I just didn't, you just knew he was the uncle. he was almost like the bank of the family. If you need something, you go to him. If you were having problems, you go to him, whatever, right? And after his passing a few years ago, and we sat down, and what blew my mind was he had enough. He owned land in Alabama, where I'm from. So here it was, this man, the most powerful thing he could have done was he sat down and he made his wishes so clear and known. And I mean, to a T, he said, this is what you do with the house. This is what you do with the land. This is what you do with the cars. Here's the stocks, the bonds. And I'm thinking, wait, he was a truck driver and a army veteran. And literally, he wrote in that he was taking care of not only his generation in terms of his siblings, but now the children and grandchildren. So we had a family meeting. And I have a big extended family. We're talking about almost 40 something people sitting around the table talking about his wishes. And the fact that he left something for everyone, a seed for everybody, that blew my mind. And that made me think about Omega, what you said about the biblical principle. And although this book isn't particular Bible based, it does have scriptural foundations in it. The richest man in Babylon, it says your money should have offsprings, meaning, okay, that savings account, that 0.05 whatever percent, that's cool. But there are ways to really duplicate and make your money work. You even mentioned passive income. What are some ways we can earn not only passively, but put aside? Because that was the most powerful thing I had ever seen. That there was money, he had money growing in different areas, that he made it once and it just multiplied so that it took care of other people. How do we get to that level?
Well, I would say, I mean, as a business owner, we are all teaching something or creating something or serving people in some type of way. And with that knowledge, we can create digital products. You know, we can create something that will withstand our time and something that can be placed on a platform to continue to sell and sell and sell and make money. You know, that's just one way to produce passive income. I'm a big real estate person, so I'm always talking about real estate, you know, because that's something that's going to forever be here. It's something that's going to be with, you know, we have to have housing, we have to have, you know, we have land and things like that. So definitely real estate.
I actually second that for both of those areas. Both of those areas are very good areas. And another thing that I would add to that is just you feeling the need for your community, searching your heart for what you're good at. So it may not be out in real estate. You may not even go outside of your house, but you know what? I'm like Mel, you know, we're on a virtual live right now. This is what you're good at. I know you go out and you speak as well, but this is what you're good at. God, what is my niche? What am I good at? What is my purpose in this life? You have, I mean, people that are literally creating workbooks, or they're creating, you know, whole wardrobes for people, and they're doing it from their home. And this was before COVID-19. This was before all of that. So sit down and ask God. If you don't already know, ask God for a little bit of direction. God, what am I good at? What does my community need? What does this world need? There's always a need that you can feel. And I've always heard it said this way. You know, me and Tish are both coaches for money. But at the end of the day, I'm not doing what Tish is doing. Tish is not doing what I'm doing. We're adding some type of value in a totally different direction. We're giving our perspective from a totally different background or demographic, whatever that may be, and go down the aisle. They say the bread aisle. I say whatever aisle you choose to go down, potato chip aisle, bread aisle, laundry. You know, you don't just see Tide, because Tide was on top for a little while, right? Everybody wanted games. You know, but now you have the Arm & Hammer, and you have, you know, the other brands that are out here. So be your brand, but feel the need of your community first and foremost, and then you move forward from there. So that would be my add to that. You know, that passive income will begin to come. But again, let it be something that you're passionate about, because that's what's going to make the difference. If you're not passionate about it, if it's not in your heart to do, then you're not going to put the time in. So if you put the time in and it's passion for you and it's purpose, then you'll move forward with it and you'll thrive.
Absolutely. You know, I want to touch on that. And you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur to have areas of passive income. I think there's a lot of myths out there. I've literally seen like I said, two types of people in this season. Like you touched on, people who have become quite industrious. I've seen people who have clothing stores, and since their doors can be open, they shifted to making masks in this season to give away or to sell or what have you. Or even look at some of the giants. Look at the motor manufacturers who said, hey, we're going to shift our auto operations to make ventilators. L'Oreal, a cosmetic company, they said, no, we're opening our laboratories to actually make more hand sanitizer and sterilizing products. So it's very important to ask yourself, what's the one thing I do, like you said, Omega, that's evergreen, that people are going to need no matter what? Housing, food, utilities, technology services. No, I'm
Right.
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
those types of, like, if like, for example, I know a young man, one of the young people in our mentorship group, he's making a killing off of like prepaid phone services and like internet services, because he knows, like, if people aren't gonna pay any other bill, they gonna pay their cell phone bill. And that was
Mhm.
just smart. It was just incredibly smart. He said,
Mhm.
what's the one area where people are going to invest and spend no matter what? I've seen people educating themselves. I love what you said earlier, Tisha, about these classes. Like, literally, I've seen classes, like you said, on marketing, finance, whole nonprofit startup, and I'm talking
Mhm.
about with Ivy League schools, Cornell,
Mhm.
Harvard, even.
Harvard.
They,
Mhm.
guys, I can't think of any other time in our history where you're going to have that opportunity. You're sitting right there at the computer, and the technology gives us access to make that income. Play around with penny stocks. If you, I'm not. Here's a disclaimer: I am not a financial expert. I just read a lot, okay, and I sit with wealthy people. And I started. Robinhood is one of my favorite apps, and actually before the pandemic, I was looking at, I said, okay, what are my favorite brands? Like, I'm a technology person, I'm a trainer. So I started before this happened. I said, I'm going to invest in the tech platforms I love the most. And who knew? Who knew what was about to happen? And there was a boom in these areas of streaming devices, streaming services, streaming software, online technology. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just happened to make the right decision at the right time. So,
Mhm.
look for things like you said that you enjoy, that it's almost, it becomes like a game, right? Teaching you saying, hey, have fun with it. When I started seeing that money grow, I would get up and be like, oh, okay, how much did I make today? It became almost like Monopoly, right?
Right.
Get your
Mhm.
family involved, get
Yep.
your kids involved,
Mhm.
Right.
okay? Look at saving. There's different savings apps and things you can use. One of my favorites, just to shout out again, I'm not necessarily endorsing in particular. I'm just telling you guys tools that I've used. We've worked with Chase Bank in the past before, through Activation Hour hosting events. They have like their Advancing Black Pathways, a whole list of resources for African American businesses. There are several grants and loans that are out there. I even researched the PPP payday loan, and for the longest, I honestly just didn't understand. I said, Melissa, you need to care enough to sit down and read about this. And even if you're a solopreneur, if you set aside that business bank account and you put yourself on payroll and start cutting yourself a check, that, hey, there's opportunities out there, but we have to go about it the right way. This is a good season to put your affairs in order. A lot of times there's a wealth of resources and information. We're just not reading it and applying it. So I just wanted to express that passive income is not as hard as you think, even if it comes in little ways. It doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. It could be a couple of dollars, $100 here and there. It's money you didn't have before.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are some other? I want to talk about budgeting. So I'm gonna pitch this to Latisha first. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm terrible at budgeting. Like, when I like a written budget, my mom and grandma like literally pull out their checkbooks. And y'all know this is old school. You got a checkbook, honey. I ain't can't tell you. The only reason I got checks is for my business. They gave me that check. I was like, what am I do with that? So, but that was an old school thing. I do remember them pulling out the checkbook. My grandma, bless her heart, still does this, and they write out all the bills and they reconcile the checkbook. But explain really the power of having a budget and how to like not be so hard on yourself, because I would get frustrated with a paper budget and just feel like I was failing and it would like discourage me. So what are some tips about budgets in your business or in your household, Latisha?
All right. So for most of my clients, they've never had a budget. And so I start them off with a working budget, one that's going to change. It can change from day to day, from month to month. But I recommend having multiple accounts. I recommend my clients get 2 checking accounts, one for all of their bills, and then another one for miscellaneous, gas, food, things like that. Because I feel in the beginning, if you're not used to budgeting your money, if you're not used to, making sure this is paid and this goes this way, you need those 2 separate accounts. You want to make sure your bills are paid first, and then the miscellaneous money that you have is what's left. That's it. That's all you have to work with. But they're just steps that you have to take in order to stick with it. Also, too, as far as savings, you have to have more than one savings account. One of the biggest things that I teach my clients is, because most people do this, let's say, for instance, you have an account with Chase, a checking account with Chase and a savings account. Mm-hmm. If you have money in your savings account and your checking account is low, what are you going to do? Transfer money from your savings to your checking. Until you're disciplined enough not to do that, I recommend getting an account that is online or an account that you cannot easily access. Out of sight, out of mind. They're just different tips that you have to do in order to get on the wave of this is how it's going. This is how I want my money to flow, but my bills are paid. They're paid on time. And, this is what I have left. If I want to have more money left over, what can I do? What side hustle can I create? How can I make extra money? Can I pick up another job? Can I do Uber or, Grubhub or something like that if I want to make some additional funds? But just teaching those different tips helps. It really does.
You know what? Speaking of teaching, that has been one of the biggest areas of income and opportunity. My mom is a 10th grade math teacher, and it hit me one day, everybody has a skill. I don't care who you are. God gave you something you can teach. Okay. And what better time than to teach a skill and get paid for it? That's another really good one. You said some things. I dropped one of your tips here. Have multiple accounts. I never understood that until later in life, the power of keeping your money in separate buckets to help discipline yourself. And that online accounts, are there any particular online accounts you recommend? Like you said, out of sight, out of mind. What do you recommend?
Well, one that I've had for years, and the interest rate, most banks' interest rates aren't good, but it's one of the higher ones, Capital One 360. Mm-hmm. That's the one that I use.
So that one, and I also use American Express. Like, I literally forget I have that account sometimes. There's several. Just Google online banks.
Yes, there's several.
Yep, there's several. Now, Omega, any tips on that as well in terms of budget to piggyback on what Tisha shared?
Yeah, Tisha shared some wonderful, wonderful tips, and I definitely agree with all of those. And so I'll do the kind of the other side of the spectrum. Walking into finance, again, as Tisha said, most of your clients have not even budgeted before. So I go ahead and pre-position them and say, hey, failure is going to happen. I'm not going to fluff it up for you. I'm not going to make you feel good. I'm going to, just be real with them and let them know failure is going to happen. You're going to fall off the bandwagon a couple of times, but it's up to you. And I'm going to hold you accountable to jump back on the bandwagon. So it's not about giving up. It's about continuing forward. So that's one of the biggest things that I can say first and foremost. And what I do find also with the savings accounts, and you're trying to begin to build, we go from no money in savings to now I'm going to say $500 a month. Knowing it's not realistic. Let's be realistic about our goal. And so people begin to get discouraged because you go from not saving any money, or not ever budgeting, to now I'm going to budget on the T. I'm going to, save this amount of money. So taking it from not 0 to 100 real quick, as they say, you go from 0 to 10. You know what? Let's focus on 0 to 10. Let's do this. These are my steps. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to save this much. Okay, now I'm at 10. Let's go from 10 to 20. Now that's my second set of goals, or my second set of whatever I want to do. I'm going to put these things into play. My last thing on that is what gets rewarded gets repeated. When you do something great, when you do something and you hit a goal, what gets rewarded gets repeated. I said this in my financial class, and I know we all had a fun time laughing about it, but when you were in kindergarten or first grade and you got those golden stars, you were so excited to go home and tell Mama, I got 5 golden stars. And then when you went back the next day, you wanted to be on your best behavior. Or what about the treasure box? That's your treasure box. In our adult life, our treasure box is that account. Our treasure box is leading, going forward and doing or being successful in our finances. So, hey, let's focus on the treasure box. What gets rewarded gets repeated. Don't go crazy. Take your time, do something small, but what gets rewarded get repeated. So if you have a good month of your budget, not free of mistakes, not free of errors, but just a good month where I did much better, or I'm tracking my spending and week 3 was a great week for me, reward yourself. And then you're going to repeat those habits and those things that you've done before, and those things you put in place, and then just magnifies again, the focus again. What you focus on is going to grow.
What gets rewarded gets repeated.
Absolutely.
That's the mic drop of the whole interview. That's so true. It goes back to what I was telling you before as a kid, how my mom rewarded me with shopping. So that was the habit. But that's become my new reward. Like, it feels good to me when I see that auto savings go over. So set up some provisions for yourself. If you know you're not going to remember to save, even if it's like, I bank with Chase, and if you consider like rounding up your money and then your change goes into that account, or from your payroll, start just hiding money from yourself. And then for real. And then you go back and look like, wow. Or like, I have a travel account. Like it's literally because I know I love to travel the world, and I am like fiending for an airplane right now. I'm probably gonna be the first one at the airport when the world opens. Like, but that's vacation packages are cheap now. Like, start looking for things if you just have to reward yourself. Start looking now and saving for that. Like, so my reward is, I said, look, once I get X amount of dollars in this savings account, for every, say, like $100 I save, I put another amount in that travel account. So my trip is my reward for what I save. It's, like I said, you kind of make it a game.
Yep.
So that's a really good one. And we have a few minutes left here, and I didn't go deep on this topic today. That may leave us room for a part 2. I want to hear from the audience. If y'all want more of this, we'll come back for more. But we didn't really touch on like credit and things of that nature. And one thing I will say is be honest about where you are. Just stop being afraid to look at it. Stop like hanging up on the bill collect. Like, talk to them. And there's some amazing experts and people out there and tools and resources. Again, whoever you bank with, ask them about their credit resources to help rebuild that. And people have all these different myths out there. Do either of you want to touch on maybe some credit strategies to help reposition you better in this season? Either of you have tips on that?
Well, I just want to say and reiterate what you just said. Don't be afraid to look at it. Like, that's the most important part, because it can't be fixed if you don't acknowledge what's going on. And so if you guys don't know, the credit bureaus right now are allowing you to pull your credit for free every week. I think it's for like the next year, if I'm not mistaken. Look at it. Look and see what's going on. There are so many things that you could do right now during this time to fix your credit. You can write dispute letters. They're free. They're online. You can go line by line on your credit. You can call your creditors, call your collection agencies. When they call your phone, answer the phone, because they have not necessarily programs, but you can work something out with them. You can pay $5 a month. You can pay $10 a month, or you can dispute the charge. But the biggest thing you don't want to do is disregard those phone calls because it's going to make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that after this pandemic, after this is over, the collection people are going to start back calling, and they're going to go straight to filing judgments on people. And that's something that you don't want to happen, because that's like worst situation. So just make sure you're facing what's going on. And once you get through that, it gets easier. I promise you it does. Because I've been there, but it gets easier for sure.
Omega, any thoughts on that?
That was actually part of my thought, was just contacting. So, answering the phone, but also contacting your creditor. So again, as I said earlier in the call, been in finance for 20 years. I'm still on my 9 to 5. I still, day-to-day work at a credit union. And that's what we find the most. They're afraid to call. They're afraid to ask. They're afraid to, they're almost embarrassed to even give what their situation is. And there's no reason to be ashamed. There's no reason to be afraid. All you can do is ask, and all they can do is say yes, or all they can do is say no. One last thing I'll say is, with your credit, again, catching it beforehand. So before it gets to the bureau, call your creditors, talk to them, ask them what programs they have, see if they can defer your payments, whatever that is. They'll walk you through those steps. But remember, 35% of your credit score is payment history. The 30% is your utilization on your credit cards. So 65% between just those two areas.
Say that one more time, Omega.
So 35% of your credit score is your payment history, how well you pay your obligations and your bills. 30% is your utilization of your credit cards. That's a whole conversation, because some people use that as extra and additional income. But those are just the two top. There's 3 more categories. I won't really go into those because we only have a few minutes, but I'm just naming those 2 because those are the greatest 2. That's 65%. So that's over half of your score is just those 2 areas. So if you can focus on anything, pay your bills on time, do not run up your credit cards right now in this season. If you can't afford to pay it or buy it twice, don't get it. The 7-day rule is, if you can sit it in the cart, or the cart rule, you sit in the cart, leave it, and then you don't want it, or so sit it in there, let it sit. Make those decisions on your needs versus your wants. But those are the 2 areas to focus on right now in this season, because that's the majority of what your score is what your score is made up of. I'm sorry. So yeah, just focus on those 2. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be we're gonna be fine. I just want people to know that COVID-19, we all took a hit, all in different ways, because we're in different walks of life, but we are going to be fine. There's still hope in our future.
I love it. That's an excellent note to end on. There's so much. You know what? Our audience is awesome. I've had several requests. Yes, part 2. They want to hear from you. So the people have spoken. We'll see what we can do about that. But there is hope. Everyone's hit differently. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Everybody's not broke in this season.
Not at all.
Scarcity mindset has to be unveiled and called out, because I believe it is a mindset. I do understand in there's some conditional things, there's some environmental things. I get that. But like I said, I've seen people who don't have much do a whole lot with what they have, like my uncle, but it was a decision. It was discipline. It was a decision, and it was discipline. So there's so much more. This is a very rich conversation. If y'all love this, if this was good for you and you want to help, matter of fact, don't keep this information to yourself if this was good. Can y'all share this broadcast? Share it on your timelines. Share it if you're with our YouTube family. Share it. Share the video with someone. Have a conversation with your family about this topic. If you haven't already, go to the activationhour.com. Join my email list. I'll send out a show recap, but I'll also send out a list of the resources that our financial coaches have shared with us today. And subscribe. Go follow the Activation Hour Coaching and Consulting and turn on your notifications. And if you're with our YouTube family, go ahead and subscribe and turn on that little bell and get your notifications for Virtual Cup of Coffee and anytime we go live. And finally, These ladies are a product of Activation Nation. If you're looking for the activation you need to move in your purpose and for income maximization, join us in the journey because we have really rich conversations like this all throughout the week. Finally, ladies, will you tell the audience what you have going on right now? If you're hosting any master classes, any products, how can they support you and also get the tools they need and tell them how to stay connected?
Well, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the Latisha Stevens. And I'm always offering to do personalized budgets for clients, actually walking you through the steps you need to take to reach your financial goals. And stay tuned, follow me because I have a financial course that's coming out that's going to help you guys during this pandemic and
Yay!
post-pandemic. So we're excited about that. But go follow me again on Instagram and Facebook at the Latisha Stevens.
And what's your website, Latisha?
My website is latishastevens.com.
Awesome. And Omega, what do you have going on where people can stay connected and support, and how can they reach you?
Yes, ma'am. So staying connected, I am on Facebook as well as Instagram as well. And it's at Scripted Sense, and I want to spell that out for you. So it's SCRIPTED, but Sense is CENTS, as in coin, sense. So Scripted Sense, that's on Facebook as well as Instagram. And I just wrapped up one of my financial seminars. There will be more to come because I really want to pour into the communities, into the lives of the people. So again, be on the lookout as well for some financial advice, some financial tips and things that are going to come in the future. I would love to connect with you. I do the one-on-ones. And I also I would love to do a family. So far, I have not done family. I've just done one-on-ones with one client at a time. But if I can come in and be a wealth of knowledge or, something, a beacon of light to your family and your finances, husband, wife, including children, let's do it. Let's make it happen because finances are pulling us apart and we want to mend those fences or mend our families back together and mend relationships. Even friendships are falling because of finance. So let's just get it back together. And that's
I love that. I mean, just the image of you coaching a family around the table.
Bring everybody.
With them. Like y'all, and then even Latisha, like the fact that you serve women specifically, this is statistically true. I've researched it. 90% of household financial decisions are made by women. 90%. So women feel empowered. Definitely, advocate for your families and the financial resources you need. And Omega, I'm definitely rallying for you that, hey, we said we're going to activate 1,000. I say we activate and educate 1,000 families. How powerful is that? How powerful is that? So tell us your website, Omega, so that people can
website is scriptedsense.com. I'm sorry, .wordpress.com. Sorry. So it's scriptedsense.wordpress.com.
Phenomenal. Hey guys, if you've enjoyed this broadcast today, make sure you show some love and support. Go follow our guests, support their initiatives. But the biggest compliment you can pay us today is to share this information, this wealth of knowledge that they have poured out to you. Put these tips to use. Make sure if you missed anything, you go back and catch the replay because we've put resources in terms of the websites and all of that information. Again, guys, you've been great. Stay connected with the community. We'll be back right here, Virtual Cup of Coffee. Come back and join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. right here on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. I'm your girl, Melissa D, Coach Mel, and I'll be seeing you on our next Virtual Cup of Coffee. Ladies, you're amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.